In the far north, where the forests are covered with snow all year round, and the moonlight is always colder than the sunlight, a wolf cub was born in the middle of a cold winter night. From the first moment, he was different. His fur was not the dark gray of his brothers, but a strange pale silver, as if covered with a layer of moon dust. His eyes were a soft blue, calm and deep, like a bottomless ice lake. The wolves did not welcome him. For them, being different was a bad omen. The leader wolves quietly stayed away. The other wolves growled when he approached the feeding trough. Even the loving mother could not resist the instinct to suppress the pack. And so one foggy morning, before he was fully awake, the wolves left, leaving him in the cold white snow. He wandered in the forest alone. No howl to call for companions, no footprints to guide him. Each step left a faint trace in the snow, like his existence small and easily forgotten. Hunger gnawed at his flesh, but hunger was more bearable than the loneliness that gnawed at his mind. On the longest nights, he would often look up at the sky, where the full moon hung like a distant promise. Under the moonlight, his silver fur glistened faintly. Although he did not know why, there was always a hint of expectation in his tired eyes, as if the sky was listening to the silent call of a small, abandoned soul. One night, when the darkness was as thick as a cold blanket covering the forest, the sky suddenly lit up. The pale moonlight was overwhelmed by a long, red, and dazzling streak of fire, cutting across the sky like the slash of an angry god. The young wolf, huddled under an old oak tree, opened its blue eyes wide in surprise. A loud explosion tore through the silence that had lasted for thousands of years in the forest. The ground shook as if it were screaming. A huge burning meteorite fell not far from where it was hiding. The light from the impact blew away the ice and snow, tearing the ancient trees to pieces. It didn't have time to run. An abnormal energy burst from the crater, rushing through the air like an invisible wave. That light swept through the small body, engulfing it in a storm of crazy light and electricity. The pain was intense. Every muscle, every vein in it felt like it was on fire. Bones and flesh cracked and reformed, the once silver fur glowing with a blue light. A pair of strange wings, seemingly woven from thousands of lightning bolts, tore across its trembling back. The wolf let out a long howl, a mixture of pain and anger, echoing throughout the devastated forest. In that moment, the abandoned little creature died, and from the ashes, a new creature, imbued with the power of the stars, was born. Everything fell silent after the explosion. The wind stopped blowing, the snow stopped falling, and the forest held its breath. In the center of the blackened lane among the smoking ruins, the creature slowly stood up. Its body was covered in silver fur tinged with electric blue. Faint streaks of light like a crystal lattice stretched across each muscle. Its newly grown wings trembled with energy, as if searching for balance in the ash-filled air. Every time it moved, tiny lightning bolts flashed around its claws and back. But the creature, Lumenus, could not understand itself. Its instincts told it that it was different, that a huge source of power was now coursing through every cell. Yet its heart still pounded in fear like the little wolf that had just woken up from a nightmare with no way out. In its first steps, the untamed power exploded uncontrollably. A flutter of its wings unconsciously unleashed a cold electric wind, tossing the trees like toys. An instinctive roar echoed, tearing the night, silencing the animals throughout the area in fear. Luminous staggered away from his own shadow, leaving long streaks of brilliant light in the forest. The loneliness did not disappear. It only took on a more dazzling and dangerous coat. In the distant sky, the moon still shone, like a silent friend, witnessing the strange creature struggling between its old self and its new form. And in the depths of the earth, something else had awakened along with it. Deep in the earth, where the meteor had torn the earth apart and left a fiery crater, something had awakened. Not life, but something more primal and ancient, pure darkness. As Luminous struggled to understand his new power, whispers began to rise in the cold night air. They did not come from the pack, nor from the physical world. They crept into his mind like misty wisps of smoke, whispering sweet words. You have been abandoned. You do not belong here. This power is yours. Use it. Reclaim what was taken from you. At first, Luminous tried to ignore them, but the whispers grew louder, more insistent, claws digging into his weary mind. They stirred painful memories. the wolf's distant gazes, the cold howls of his former family, hunger and shivering under the icy sky. And from the depths of the pit, a being slowly took shape, Urban, a creature conceived from darkness and meteorite debris. No clear shape, just a writhing mass of darkness, with thousands of crimson eyes, all watching Lumenus. Airburn whispered in the wind, not only tempting, but also threatening, promising a future where only darkness ruled and all would bow to the primal power. Luminous stood silently under the starry sky, between two worlds, light and darkness. Within him the struggle began. One wrong step, and he himself could become a disaster for the world he never belonged to. But somewhere in his burning chest, the first ray of light still flickered, resisting those sweet enticements. In the days after the explosion, the forest was in chaos. Trees died, streams turned black, the sky was often clouded with thick ash clouds. Luminous wandered among the ruins, carrying immeasurable power, but his heart heavy with doubt. Every night, the voice of darkness echoed, soft as smoke, cold as mist. The earth has abandoned you. No one loves you. Let me give you the justice you deserve. In moments of weakness, Luminous leaned toward those promises. He imagined a world subdued under his electric wings, where no one could abandon or hurt him anymore. But then, on a cold night, standing on a mountaintop covered in ash, Luminous saw a scene. From afar, small creatures, rabbits, deer, birds, were holding each other to find shelter, resiliently surviving in the ruins of the sky and earth. Under the weak moonlight, they still tried to live, without hatred, without resentment. In that moment, a simple truth pierced the darkness in its heart like an arrow. Strength is not for revenge. Strength is for protection. Luminous knelt on the ground, its great wings folded, and for the first time it no longer felt alone. The heart that had been torn apart by abandonment now beat steadily, no longer trembling in the darkness. It raised its head, facing the heavy sky, and roared a loud roar, not of hatred, but of declaration. I choose the light. At that moment, Airburn screamed from deep within the earth, sensing the resistance. The darkness no longer whispered. It began to roll, swallowing the sky. The real war had begun. The ground rumbled, the night sky seemed to crack. From the deep crater where the meteor had fallen, Airburn rose, a giant mass of darkness curling like poisonous smoke, carrying countless bloodshot eyes staring at the world. With each step it took, trees rotted to ashes, rocks melted under the thick layer of darkness. A deadly cold air swept through the forest, causing all living things to shiver, silent in fear. In midair, Luminous leaped, its electric wings emitting a brilliant blue light, tearing apart the surrounding dark clouds. Streaks of blue fire danced around its body. Thunder rumbled in the sky as if adding more power. Without warning, Airburn released tentacles of darkness, reaching out as if to strangle the tiny light. Luminous dodged with lightning-fast somersaults, leaving long trails of light tearing through the night. The battle began. Luminous focused its power into its claws, charging straight into the heart of the darkness. Each swing sent out electric shock waves, pushing back layers of darkness. But Airburn seemed endless. Each part of its body blown away, regenerating from nothingness. Airburn screamed. The tentacles transformed into pitch-black blades, lashing out. One strike landed, and Luminous groaned in pain, the light from the wound flickering faintly. Even though its body was torn apart, even though every breath turned into burning fire, Luminous did not falter. It knew that if it fell here, the darkness would swallow up the entire world of small creatures that it had sworn to protect. From deep within its heart, Luminous summoned the last of its strength. A howl resounded, thunder split the sky, and the entire night sky seemed to explode in a sea of light. A tornado of light exploded from its wings, sweeping away patches of darkness, forcing Airburn to retreat, shattering into thousands of pieces of ash. But Luminous knew this was not the end. Airburn had been pushed back, but not destroyed. The darkness had only temporarily dissipated, waiting for the opportunity to return. In the midst of the sea of snow and ash, Luminous stood still, his body bleeding from electric light, but his eyes shining with an inextinguishable light, faith. As the last rays of light faded from the ashen sky, the forest became quiet again. The wind whistled through the charred trees, carrying with it the breath of change. In the midst of the wasteland, Lumenus walked slowly. Each step left behind a glittering footprint, like fallen stars in the snow. His body was exhausted, but his heart had never beaten so strongly. The small creatures that had been hiding in fear now began to poke their heads out of their hiding places. They saw Luminous no longer as a strange ghost, but as a star, a new symbol in the world that had just been reborn after the night. Luminous no longer sought acceptance from his old flock. He had found his own purpose, to protect the light wherever it was needed. But deep down, he also knew that the darkness had not disappeared. Somewhere out there, Airburn was still silently gathering the remnants of his power, hiding under a mask of peace, waiting for the day to return. Luminous spread its wings, stretching across the pale sky. The electric blue light emitted from its body broke through the last dark clouds, returning the earth and sky to their clear turquoise color. It would no longer be a lone wanderer. Luminous had become a guardian, a protector of the earth from the threats of the end of nothingness. A new journey awaits, and this time Luminous would never fall alone again. The legend of the Light Wolf had begun.